And we're back.
Welcome to episode 229 of No Direction, the No Direction Network's Pathfinder news, reviews, and interviews podcast. I'm Ryan Costello.
And I'm Jefferson J. Thacker, also known as Param.
Param, we like stuff.
I do love stuff. Oh,
we like Pathfinder stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Here to tell us about all the cool Pathfinder stuff is Mr. Mark Moreland, whose official title I did not have handy. I hear you're the director of brand strategy, Mark.
I am.
That is awesome.
That's my name and my title.
Now, there was no director of brand strategy before you, right?
No, there was not.
Is it just kind of like you kept filling a more and more specific space at Paizo until they were like, this is the Mark Moreland job. We just need a title for it?
That's pretty much exactly what happened, yeah. I was franchise manager for 2.5 years. And during that time, I just kept taking more and more stuff off Eric Mona's plate. And he was like, you're really not doing the franchise manager job anymore. We want to make sure that you're being compensated adequately for the extra work that you're doing. That means we have to come up with a new title for you. And I suggested Director of Brand Strategy because that's largely what I'm doing.
So can you explain the difference between the Director of Brand Strategy and what you were doing, which was franchise manager?
As franchise manager, I was doing a lot of tactical implementation of the strategy as set by the executives. Mm-hmm. And so now I'm more involved in deciding what that strategy is going to be. So before I was working with our licensees to ensure that they were correctly representing the brands or that they were presenting them in the best possible light. Mm-hmm. And now I'm working closer with John File, our director of licensing, and with the executive team to figure out what licenses we really want to pursue to fill gaps within the the brand's reach or what have you. So there's that. Also, just recognizing that as the marketplace changes, especially given the current state of the world and how that has impacted gaming. A lot of it is just figuring out how do we position Pathfinder and Starfinder to best adapt to people playing mostly online or to whatever,
Mm-hmm. Just to kind of set a timeline for when you took over this new position, got this new, I'm going to call it some creative freedom. What's one of the first things that you started working on after getting the job that went to, that people may have in their hands and at their homes?
One of the first things I did after getting this job was take 3 months off for family leave. So
the answer was a baby.
Yeah. No. And she was born before that, actually.
Oh, okay.
So, Washington State has rules that you can only use their special leave after the first of the year. So I had to wait until the first of the year.
What?
But
sorry.
Yeah, it's actually a really generous policy for the U.S.
But it's weird. Like if the baby's born the second of the year.
Yeah, then I would have been able to take it right away. She was born in September, and because it wasn't 2020 yet, so I couldn't.
Okay.
I couldn't use it, but yeah. So I took February, March, and April off, and came back to the office. I haven't been back in the office since then. I came back to a very different workplace than I left. And one of the first things that I had to do, in addition to just adapting to working from home and all of the new processes that we had in place to share files and have meetings and all this stuff that sort of got done while I was gone, was to assemble a what I call the VTT strike force. And that is the small little team that's trying to figure out how to best, release stuff on VTTs. And that's, me. We have members of the art team. We have some other strategic folk. We have some folks from ops. We have John File, our licensing guy, who's our primary liaison with the VTT partners that we've got. So yeah, we're working on that. That's the biggest thing that I personally have worked on since coming back. I was largely the lead on the Kickstarter that we just ran from middle of July through beginning of last week. Those are the two big products that I sort of spearheaded, or projects that I spearheaded.
What Kickstarter?
Not Kickstarter. Humble Bundle.
Game on tabletop?
Humble Bundle.
No.
Humble Bundle. Okay.
Yes. The one that has like the physical core rule book at the top tier.
The one that made $1 million. Yeah. That
one. Wow.
Yeah. But not for us. We made $1 million split between us and Humble Bundle and 3 really worthy charities that we said back in June when we made our statement about Black Lives Matter that we were going to put our money where our mouth is, and the Humble Bundle allowed us to do that. We were able to generate a whole lot of funds that otherwise the company would not have had access to, that we were then able to funnel toward those charities. So I'm really happy that it was as popular as it was.
Excellent.
So it's an interesting thing to talk about there, because from your point of view, it's like, yeah, this would be really good for the brand. It would get their name out there, would get rule books in people's hands. From
I guess
the financial department's
nice
point of view,
effect.
they're like, well, how much of this money are we actually making? How do we determine profit? There might be someone from community being like, this is like our social value of this kind of move. Like, you would have to be consulting with a lot of different people. So how does a project like that come together?
Well, we it's not our first Humble Bundle, and so we have a pretty good relationship with the folks there. We've done a number of them where we were partnered with Dynamite, and they released a bunch of pulp comics along with our Worldscape or just the Pathfinder comics, and then we've done a few that were just Paizo, and so every few months, they contact us or we contact them and say, are we ready for another bundle? What do we think? And we had just included the Starfinder core rulebook in their big social justice bundle that they ran in June.
Oh yeah.
So we had just gotten off of that, and it's usually right after a Humble Bundle runs that they say, okay, what's next? If we let it sit for too long, they forget about us and move on to other partners, which I don't blame them. So they were like, okay, that's done. Now what? And we had sort of already decided that we were going to need to do something other than just write a check to the charities that we wanted to support, not because we didn't want to do that, but because ultimately you can give more money if you're bringing in money specifically for that purpose. So we knew we wanted to do that, and Humble Bundle was the perfect opportunity. So I put together the product list. Essentially, we were like, what do we want to give away with this? We knew that we wanted to try and get them to do a physical tier. We'd had a lot of success in 2016, 2015. I don't even remember what year it was. We did a bundle that had the physical tier of the Pathfinder First Edition beginner box. That did very well. We got a lot of new people exposed to the brand with that. And so we have secretly since then sort of really wanted Humble Bundle to do another physical tier. It's not really something that they do often anymore, if at all. But we said, hey, we'd like to give away this book we would like to include in the bundle this book that is just a year old. That is the foundational book for our game. And they were like, okay, well, we'll look into it. We'll see what we can do. And they came back to us and said, yeah, well, that last bundle did pretty well. So let's try it again.
Mm-hmm.
And so knowing that it was going to be for second edition as the anchor of the bundle,
Mm-hmm.
It seemed weird to include a bunch of first edition material in there, because for all of those new Pathfinder players or GMs or just people curious about the brand, I can't imagine how confusing that would be to, get a physical copy of the book and then have different terminology, different kinds of layout from books that are 2-3 years old.
Mm-hmm.
So it was tough to try and figure out what to include to make this feel like it was a robust package.
It looks like your answer was almost everything.
Almost everything second edition,
right?
So that was the challenge. Was we've only been releasing second edition stuff for a year,
right?
So there's only so many things to choose from, and so it was like this balancing act. Do we want to give everything so that people are getting more than 5 products, or do we want to, I don't know, hold on to the stuff that's just a few months old so that we can maybe still make full price on these? And we decided that we would go with what people really needed to get started playing the game. And that ended up being the core rulebook, the bestiary, a number of adventures. It had Fall of Plaguestone, the map for Plaguestone. I think there were
several society adventures.
Yeah, there were both some quests and some scenarios, and we included the digital maps that were used in all of those.
That was a really good touch, actually. I noticed that when I was going through it, and that was like, oh my gosh, it's so useful to have those maps.
Yeah, and come back to maps, because I have stuff to talk about the maps in VTG. And then it still didn't look like we had that much stuff. I said, well, people need to know more about the world, so we included the first 2 Lost Omens books. And then I thought, we could include some novels. But because the novels use a contract that is based on royalties, the accounting got really messy, where people got to pick how much they were paying for stuff, and it was part of a bundle where it wasn't clear how much was for the novel and how much would have been for something else. So we thought, oh man, that would have been neat. And then I remembered that we had all this short fiction that appeared on the blog or appeared in the back of Pathfinder, in the Pathfinder's journal, and we could include that instead. So that's what we did, because those don't have the same royalty structure. So so folks who got the bundle hopefully got enough to really get a feel for what Pathfinder second edition is, what the setting is, and some of the stories that we've told in the past from there.
I know at Gen Con, when we had the Behind the Products panel, you were also talking about how you want to get the fiction back because there hasn't been a novel line in a while. So what is the place of the Pathfinder fiction in the Pathfinder brand?
Right now, there's not much. But I and others at the company firmly believe that we need to have fiction to support the brand. Because it's another expression of the property, and one of the I guess just realities. I was going to say sad truth, but it's not really sad. It's just the reality of publishing a game under the OGL is that we don't really own the rules. Once we've released them, they're open. Anyone can do stuff with those. So when it comes to the value of the Pathfinder brand or the Starfinder brand, we can't really count the rules because they're not something we could license to a movie studio, for example, and say, here, we'll give you the right to use these rules for your movie. This is a bad analogy. But because, like we can charge people for the book, for the rules, but no one's going to pay us $1 million for the rules. What we can ask for $1 million on, and I would love to be paid $1 million for, are the stories that we've told, the characters we've created, the world that we've built. That's the stuff that's not free. That's the stuff that that the brand, it's at the heart of the brand. The reason you need the rules is so you can tell the stories. It's so you can build the characters. It's so that you can explore the world. And right now we're publishing primarily content. We're publishing stories that don't have protagonists, which serves a purpose for people who are playing the game.
Right.
But we're leaving out the people who either don't have the time or the frankly the desire to play a game, that they just might like the setting, or they might like the characters and want to experience stories set in the world, or the galaxy in the case of Starfinder, that have protagonists, so that they can listen to the audiobook on their commute to work, which no one has anymore because everyone works from home.
We've noticed.
So I think that there's a certain segment of our potential audience that we're not reaching. And while of course we would love to have a breakout hit like the Bob Salvatore books from the 90s, or the Dragonlance Weiss and Hickman books, or whatever, like you hope that you can get a big blockbuster like that justifies the line. But at the same time, I think that even if they're not on the New York Times bestseller list, they serve a role within the brand in terms of expanding on stuff that just doesn't work as an RPG. So right now, we're primarily just doing the web fiction. We've got let's see, 2 series of Starfinder fiction and 3 series of Pathfinder web fiction. Those run at least once a week. And we're just sort of trying out and seeing what people like. Do they like stories about the iconics? Do they like in-world sort of legends about the gods? There's not a high overhead for us doing blog content, so we can, with very low risk, sort of get our toes back in the water and see what stories do people want us to tell, and then we can from there explore ways to make that more robust or different delivery methods.
Have there been any considerations into tapping into some of the fan efforts? I know you all at one point in time sort of helped out a little bit with a fan anthology of fiction, and I've seen companies.
The Pathfinder Chronicler. As far as I know, that fan community, I'm not sure is still active. I certainly haven't seen
it's been
Ted,
years.
who sort of ran it. He hasn't been at PaizoCon in a few years, and stuff. So I don't know how active that is. I mean, we've certainly encouraged it, and we have a pretty generous community use policy that says as long as you're not selling our IP, that you can use it to tell, to make your own fan comic or make a Flash animated series. Please, someone do that. Or whatever you want to do with it, you basically can use it however you want, as long as people don't have to pay you to see it. So that means that people could write fan fiction. I think it's definitely good for the brand and for the community for people to do that. We want to encourage people to tell stories. I mean, ultimately, that's the that's the bottom line point of it. Just about everything we do is to inspire and enable people to tell awesome stories. And yeah, so I would love to see a community like that pick back up. In the meantime, we're, I am always on a number of literary magazines or websites looking to see who's out there, who's a voice that we might want to add to our cadre of authors. So I'm always trying new people out. I just assigned 3 stories today to 3 new authors who answered. Logan Bonner, the Pathfinder lead designer, put out a call on Twitter and was like, "Hey, do you want to write Pathfinder stuff or Starfinder stuff? Let me know." And some of those people who had some fiction chops filtered my way, and we'll see what people think of their stuff. So, yeah, we're always looking for more of that.
Now, Katsuni Warlock is in chat pointing out that Hillary Moon Murphy had fiction posted today. And I bring this up because Hillary Moon Murphy was a venture officer and probably still is. So she's like part of the gaming side of the community. She's done a lot of game design for you lately, including a couple of really popular sections of Lost Omen Legends. And now she's doing fiction for you. So is that also one of the pools that you're drawing talent from? Just the people that have already done other kinds of writing for you?
Sure. I mean, knowing that someone is invested in the community, that we don't need to do a lot of training is the wrong word, but that we don't need to do a lot of hand holding, to get them acclimated to our world or what the tone of our stories are. That's always handy. It's also nice to when seeing that someone has perhaps the potential to do fiction, but has only been doing adventures, that it's nice to be able to say, well, let's see what you can do. Because we publish stuff that's so niche in some cases, that someone could be really talented at a type of writing or a type of design that they're just not given the opportunity to do. Someone who's really good at class design, but who's only ever, writing flavor text for NPCs is not being utilized as well as we could use them. So, though use them is probably not how I should refer to our freelancers.
Employ them.
They're little meeples that you put on the board squares.
Exactly. Like you want to put them in the one where they have the affinity that gets you the extra points at the end of the round. So that's
that game. Freelancer worker placement game. That suddenly sounds really appealing.
Someone's going to do an RPG design worker placement game. Yeah, that's
get on Grainecrafter right now. Ryan,
you heard it here first, folks.
Now, Param, I just mentioned that someone in chat was asking us questions. Where could people find us if they want to join in the conversation?
No Direction is filmed every Wednesday in front of a live Twitch audience. If you want to join in on the fun, you will need to go to twitch.tv/No Direction, or you can click on the Twitch link at nodirectionpodcast.com. We begin usually at about 9 o'clock in the evenings on Wednesdays. It's us every other Wednesday, the other No Direction once a month, and then once a month it's Geek Together, where we just do all kinds of fun stuff for no discernible reason. And we have a lot of fun at it. And if you want to get into that chat, please get those questions to us. We will be gathering them up throughout the episode and fielding them to our guests and ourselves when the guest is gone. So we very much appreciate that interaction. And we want to know what you
What happens to the guest?
Airlock.
I thought you already mentioned the pod bay doors, Mark.
Yeah, no, I mean, it is the 2001 tunnel background, but yeah.
So I did mention that we had talked to you not too long ago at Gen Con, and I don't want this interview to be redundant with that episode, but there is some ground that we are going to cover again, and I want to start with the Life-Size Goblin that WizKids is putting out. First of all, what was your involvement in that project?
That is something that I think the idea for that started long before I was involved with any type of licensing. I mean, that was years ago. Eric and Justin, the CEO of WizKids, were just saying, "Oh, you know what would be cool is if we did a Goblin standee, and we could have it at the booth at Gen Con, and people could take pictures with it." And it was sort of like, I know that back when Wizards used to have their booth at Gen Con, they always had like a life-size beholder, a life-size troll, like a Drider or whatever. And those were always really cool. But those were just one of a kind things, as far as I know. Last summer, around this time actually, last summer is when our contact at WizKids was like, "Yeah, so I heard that you guys wanted to do a life-size goblin. Let's do it." And we were like, "Wait, all we had to do was just pitch the idea and then wait 6 years?"
Is this how products happen?
Yeah, sometimes. Yeah, so in this case, we were a little skeptical, honestly. I mean, I figured, one, it would be expensive, and two, that they might decide that it wasn't worth it for them to see all the way through to production. But while we were working on other mini sets, every once in a while we would get an email that was like, "Hey, here's the design we're thinking for the goblin," or "Oh, here's an early paint sample of the goblin," or "Here's the goblin. It's at my house. We're going to have them ready." It was like, "Oh, you guys really did it. Okay. All right." Yeah. So it's just one of those things that they really took the initiative on making it. It was an idea that was just sort of bandied about as like, it would be nice if, while we focused on the minis that are sort of a must-have. Yeah, so here it is. So I've started, suggesting all sorts of things to see what happens, a decade down the line. But yeah, it's really impressive, and I haven't actually seen it in person yet because there's no office. So I may have to see if Eric can let me babysit for a little bit.
Yeah, Eric was showing it off at Gen Con, and the thing that really surprised me was not only is that the dog slicer removable, but like he was really like yanking it out, like he was being rough with that thing, and it stood up to the amount of pressure they had to put on to draw the sword.
Yeah, I mean it's foam, but it's hard foam. It's not like it's not like boffer foam. It's not even like Warhammer Army Minis case foam. It's pretty substantial in terms of the beating it can take. I mean, obviously, if you're paying $450 for a life-size goblin, we don't recommend that you test the structural integrity of it. But yeah, I mean, it's pretty durable, but still light enough that Eric could lift it up. I mean, it's not like it's
he grunted when he did, though, so
that's just because he doesn't exercise.
Oh, and then your health premiums just went up and up.
Yeah, that's fine. It's fine.
So this really reminds me of when I used to go to my friendly local comic store, Infinity Comics. They had a life-size inflatable Spider-Man that was in a crawling pose, and they had it suspended from the ceiling. And it added so much atmosphere to that comic shop. It was something to look forward to when you went there with somebody for the first time. Is that the target market? Is this more for game stores than it is for actual Pathfinder players?
Yes. I mean, I think that it's for...
Karam's pointing at himself saying it's for him.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that there's a certain subset of the fandom that that has the expendable income to be able to say, hey, I'm gonna drop a few $100s on this really cool thing. People buy scale statues of superheroes or anime characters or video game characters or whatever, and we have our Sione. Actually, I've got her right up there on top of my my toy case, and she so there's a market for the high end collectible.
Mm.
So it's for those fans, but we also understood that originally the idea was that there would be one of them and it would be for us. So if we could have it at our Gen Con booth for people to take pictures with, or to, just sort of represent the brand, there's no reason that a game store couldn't do the same. And they actually could do it at less than the MSRP because they don't have to pay MSRP from the distributor.
Right.
So,
I used to run a game store, and getting those premium items to put up and display, and the big neon signs, the life-size, what was his name? The iconic fighter from 3.8.0.
Oh yeah.
There were two fighters. There was the dwarf Regdar,
human.
Oh, and then was Regdar the dwarf, or was he the human?
I don't know anymore.
It's not really that important.
That's an interesting thing you mentioned, because it's like we weren't the first ones to do iconics, but D&D 3 or 3.5 didn't really do anything with their iconics.
A couple of comics, that weird CGI choose your own adventure thing.
Oh, I loved that thing.
Yeah, me too.
I don't know about that. There's
like a DVD. It's not Choose Your Adventure because that's a brand name, but like a find the. I was going to say find the path, but that's also the right term for it. But anyway, yeah, you were watching it, and you would get to decision points. You would go multiple different ways. One of them was just ignore the quest giver, and then you kind of wake up in your hotel room when you hear screaming in the distance, and then go back to sleep. And that's the shortest story of them all. But there were multiple different storylines. It's a fun thing that. It's true. I don't think a lot of people know that.
Called Scourge of Worlds was the title of it. I think you can still find it.
Sounds pretty cool.
Netflix was handling. Never mind.
Yeah, the fact that I can't remember the name of their iconic characters is sort of a lesson to what we don't want to happen with our iconic characters, just from a brand strategy and brand management standpoint. We've spent a lot of money on them, and a lot of time and effort. And so, I could see if this goblin does well, maybe a Lem down the road, or a Leany, or, I think that at $450 for a goblin, I think it's probably unlikely that they'll do a life-size medium creature. But we also thought it was unlikely they would ever do a goblin. So who knows? You might be able to have your own, Mericiel to move around your house and sneak up on people in the middle of the night. We'll see. But yeah, that would be fun.
I'm imagining.
I hope I see him at game stores.
I'm imagining a Harsk with a shoulder badger.
He doesn't have the badger anymore. The badger
retired.
I don't know. He and Biter never really got along to begin with, and then second edition came along, and he didn't need the Biter anymore.
So I'm not done talking about the goblin, but there is a little something I wanted to touch on, and I don't know if you have anything to do with it, but there used to be little like snippets of fiction at the as the chapter openers in first edition, and those went away in second edition. I was surprised because I always enjoyed those.
In some ways they've moved to the blog, because I often when I'm assigning those blogs, we don't have the budget allocated for new art for the blog for the most part. So in order for us to have illustrations to accompany the fiction, we need to reuse art that appears elsewhere. And that lent itself really well, at least initially, to some of the half pagers or chapter openers that otherwise don't have a narrative associated with them. We've still got illustrations in adventures that show the iconics fighting, the monster in that story, or navigating the treacherous trail of traps.
Nice alliteration.
Yeah, it's good. we probably wouldn't use those because that story is being told in that adventure. But yeah, we went from having 100 words per half page illustration or chapter opener to having 1,000. So it's an upgrade.
Speaking of upgrades, back to the Goblin. I assume you know what I'm talking about if I say the USS Flag, right?
You mean the G.I. Joe USS Flag?
The G.I. Joe USS Flag. So it was an aircraft carrier to scale. It was the size of a coffee table. I recently found out that that was not made to sell. It was made to sit in a toy store so that when kids go there wanting one G.I. Joe, and then they say, Mommy, can I get the $200 in 80s money aircraft carrier? The mom's like, how about you have two G.I. Joes? And they're like, okay. Is this Goblin so that somebody goes into a game store and they're like, I'd love that Goblin, but I can get a whole adventure path for the same price. And then they just buy the whole adventure path?
Sure. I mean, that wasn't the intention. I mean, honestly, the intention was for us just to make a cool Goblin standee. And if it inspires people to buy our other product, then okay, yeah, we're not going to tell you no. But I think that given the quality that WizKids brings to everything they do, but especially to this, that it's a cool product that stands on its own. That if we had nothing else to sell, I would be out of a job. But there would be people who would see this cool Goblin and say, "That's a cool statue. I want that in my home," or "I want that in my garden," or I'm going to put that in my kid's closet when they don't do their homework, and like whatever. So, yeah. So I think that obviously the more people see Pathfinder represented, whether it's in posters or just, product that's face out on the shelf or whatever, the more that encourages them to check out the brand. But that wasn't necessarily the intention with the Goblin.
Yes,
30% this Goblin. He's got like X leather straps all over him. Could we get a second one with O's, and so I can get 10 of them and have a $5,000 tic-tac-toe board?
Or just a long, like teenage love letter. Just put them alternating XOXOXOXO. Call them Huggy and Kissy, the Goblins. I don't know. WizKids has said that this is the first of many life-size standees that they want to do. I can say that an O-strapped Goblin is not next. But now that the idea is out there in the wild, we'll see how much of a trendsetter you are, Mr. Costello.
We have a suggestion from Elf Tyro in chat: a life-size tree raiser.
Yeah, no, none of us want that. Like
not even James Jacobs.
I think James Jacobs would tolerate it until he realized what the carbon footprint of making something out of that much plastic would be, and then he'd probably be like, "Nah, we're good."
What about hollow it out, make a tree raiser house?
Maybe. You make your own witch bowl. I mean, at that point, just get his walking castle and be in that.
Just spend 30 years like urging trees to grow and graft in that shape. It'll be cheaper.
Yeah, I know. Just get a big topiary. It's probably neck and neck which of those would take longer for WizKids to make a life-size tree raiser or for you to grow one from seeds.
Param, I'm ready to move on from the Goblin, but I don't want to assume we're all ready to move on from the Goblin.
No,
I'm very excited.
I already got to chat about the Goblin a whole bunch.
I'm sure there will be more discussion of the Goblin when they're out in the wild.
Yeah.
Because
I mean,
right now there's just the one, and we're still safe.
Right.
But
goblins are most dangerous when they get together in big groups.
Moving on to Beetle and Grimms.
Mm-hmm.
Before we talk about the Pathfinder connection, what is the Matthew Lillard connection?
He's a co-owner of Beetle and Grimm. I guess he and the other guys who who own the company met in acting school or college, or they used to play D&D together, and they said, you know what would be cool is if there were these high-end props and GM screens and DM tools and stuff that we can that people could use. So let's make those, and they did. So yeah, I mean, yeah, we all love Matthew Lillard for his role in Hackers, and I guess he's done some other movies as well, but mostly Hackers. It's just a coincidence, I think, that he also happens to be involved in Beetle and Grimm's. It's a nice coincidence. It means that, maybe we can get to play with him. I don't know. That'd be fun. But right now we're playing with them in a business sense, that they're our partners. So yeah, that's the Matthew Lillard connection, is that he just owns a company.
So I asked that because I wasn't familiar with Beetle and Grimm's before the Pathfinder stuff was announced. So I Googled it, and the first thing that came up was Matthew Lillard. And then the second thing that came up was this extensive line of really cool products. And it was just like, what a day that was.
Yeah, the search engine optimization for Matthew Lillard is slightly higher than the Beetle and Grimm's stuff itself. So it doesn't surprise me.
But I like that the Pathfinder stuff is already up on their website, even though it's for a Kickstarter. So it's something that's coming out later, but we already have a good idea of what is going to be offered and what it is going to look like. And it's super cool.
Yeah. I mean, one of the things that really impressed us about it is, we're approached by people all the time who are like, I want to do this thing and I'm going to pay for it with a Kickstarter. And we go, no. But Beetle and Grimm's has a track record of producing this stuff for D&D. And because Hasbro doesn't allow them to do crowdfunding for those, this will be their first Kickstarter. But they came to us with such a complete product. I mean, they haven't manufactured them yet, but they've done just about everything else. And that we were confident that they wouldn't do a Kickstarter and then vaporware with it, because they've already put in so much work in the graphic design and sort of thinking out what's going to go in them, and yeah, that's why we were pretty comfortable partnering with them, knowing that they'd be using crowdfunding as their primary way of launching the line.
Yeah, and it's probably fair to say you all are being a little bit more careful with crowdfunding given recent unfortunate events.
I think it would be fair to say we are always careful, and sometimes we should have been more careful. But yeah, it's I think anyone who enters into any type of crowdfunding project and isn't super careful is asking for trouble. And sometimes you can be careful and trouble still finds you.
Yeah, I mean, not famously, but on the show, I've repeatedly said I have about a 50-50 success rate with Kickstarters I back anymore, of getting them and then not getting them. I don't pick.
Yeah, I mean, I actually have a pretty good rate for myself of ones that I've gotten. My biggest thing is that I tend to back like JRPGs, that I'm like, oh, that looks like it'll be awesome, and they send me a Steam code 2-3 years later, and I probably don't redeem it, and maybe the game is awesome, but so my 50-50 is more, did I buy a thing that I'm actually going to use in any way, shape, or form? Not does it materialize. I think I've only really been burned on 2 Kickstarters. One that I'm not bitter about and one that I am, and that's probably.
I am curious why you wouldn't be bitter about a Kickstarter that burned you.
Because it was from someone that I am friends with, that I know, and it fell through for a number of reasons that I don't want to get into. But yeah, it was, I have empathy and sympathy for that particular campaign, such that I'm okay with having donated my money to the cause with nothing to show for it. But the other things I was really hoping to get stuff in return. It is what it is.
Yeah. I mean, sorry.
I'm thinking getting back to Beatles and Cribs.
Yeah.
All right. So the complete character chronicles, most of the time I see them talked about, people are talking about them as really cool character sheets and these things you fill out. But there's also like the rules are in there. So if you want to play a wizard, we've got some examples there. The wizard class feats are in there.
Yeah. I mean, that's one of the that was one of the big selling points for us. And I know as a gamer, having been to many a convention where especially if you play in Pathfinder Society, where you need to be able to show the official rule to your GM if they have a question about it, that over the lifespan of a game or of a character, you can end up with, 6, 8, 10 different source books that you need for that character. So having the rules built into your character sheet as sort of like a compendium, so that you can just have the one book at the table and you flip to your character sheet and then you flip to the spells if you need to cast your spell or what have you, that everyone benefits when the table is less cluttered. So that's nice. And it also just enables them to take things from multiple sources. So even just with the core rulebook and the APG, there are character options that are pretty core to the game in the sense that, there's archetypes and things like that lend themselves really well to work with certain classes. Well, they're not just reprinting the core rulebook, they're going through and deciding like, okay, these, like the rogue might have the skill description for, thievery, or disable device, like all of the, not just their class features, but rules that they interact with frequently. And so that level of curation means that they can take something from the GMG maybe, or the, the APG and put that in there as well, so that you get all the spells that you could, it'll never be all the spells because we continue to release books,
right?
But at least the core, the main core of the book, the spells.
When they presented the idea to you, was there anything that you then pitched back to them of what should be included?
Some of the flavor stuff, they were like, oh, Wizard's Keep, and oh, we'll have a section here where you can write about your nemesis or your, the rival adventuring party, or you can put your family tree in it. There were certainly back and forth then about, what would be cool would be to do this or to do that, and so we all sort of geeked out around all the different neat stuff that they could potentially put into that section of the book. But they'd come up with pretty much everything. So, I have faith that we can be pretty hands off on this one, and what they're going to come out with, I'm pretty confident will be a really good product.
I like the idea of the nemesis list just being like this stupid guy and his stupid beard always showing up. And all like.
And like, I can't think of a campaign in which we didn't end up with some recurring villain that was not supposed to be a recurring villain, that the GM either made up as a throwaway person because they needed a random encounter, or that was, written and supposed to be, killed or disposed of in the AP, that somehow survived and somehow came back. And it's nice to not always put that burden on the GM to remember who this person is and what their backstory is. If you allow the players to carry some of that burden as well, they can remind the GM like, oh, we're going back to such and such country. Isn't that where our old buddy is? Or remember we were rifling through his stuff and we found that he owned stock in this corporation. Well, there's one of their warehouses here on the other side of the world. I, as a GM, would forget that I had made that connection. But if you allow the players the ability to put those things in their own words, in their own little journal, in a place where they can find it that's not just a wall of text, you'd be amazed what kind of story things come from that. Param looks like he's plotting.
This is inspiring me to we're going to talk about redesigning spaces here in a bit in the banter segment, and that just gave me an idea to add a dartboard with a character sketch of the villain on, so that players can actually throw darts at their face.
With the Pathfinder or the Paizo community use policy, you can use our art to generate that poster. Sorry, I gotta shill all of our stuff.
That's fine.
Even the free thing that lets you use our stuff for free.
Got me thinking of getting one of these for that insignificant NPC and having him writing about the PCs on the Nemesis page. Just to keep smashing my cabbage cart. Just leave my cabbage cart alone.
The heck?
Hey.
Do you know has it already been decided when this is hitting Kickstarter?
In the fall. I don't know a specific date. But fall is all they've been saying.
We got a couple of questions from our patrons.
Okay.
Karen, before I get to them, do you want to remind people how they can become patrons of No Direction?
I mean, as soon as this giant F-off spider leaves.
Okay. What? I know you're in like deadly spider country. Should we be concerned right now?
He's in Australia?
No, I'm pretty sure it's just
Kentucky. But
pretty sure it's just a wolf spider. I mean, it's only about this big.
Okay.
Oh, well, then
I remember catching a wolf spider in Tupperware one time, and it was like tapping the side of the Tupperware, and you could hear the tuk tuk tuk.
Yeah, it literally just dropped behind my stage light here, and then fell behind my desk. I'm like, oh no! But if you don't want to worry about the big giant nope in my office right now, you can go over to nodirectionpodcast.com and click on their Patreon link, or at patreon.com/nodirection, because we would not be able to expand their coverage and grow the network and provide all the content that we've been able to do over the past few years if it wasn't for the support of our patrons. We super appreciate everything you all are able to do. And if you are a patron, hang out a little bit, after the stream, because we have our little private sanctum hangout chat / mini podcast that happens after every No Direction that patrons and only patrons get to chill in, or we will just chat about whatever you all want us to chat about. And it's not too late. If some of you are thinking that sounds like a really great thing, you can sign up now, and you'll be able to get in there at the end of the episode. But for those of you who watch us, for those of you who are able to help us in every way, and especially for those of you who hit the like, share, and subscribe buttons and leave us great reviews on iTunes, we appreciate every single thing you can do to help the network, and we do this for y'all.
We have a new Patreon goal now of a spider skewer.
Oh my gosh!
So, first of the two questions we got from our patrons, Katrina Hennessy wants to know that she noted the Age of Ashes and Extinction Curse hero points available from campaign coins.
Where?
Patiently waiting for them to be available direct from Paizo. Is it planned that there will be a hero point for each AP going forward?
Boy, that would be pretty neat, wouldn't it?
It would.
Mm-hmm. Can we just get a subscription button for that, please? Now.
There are the certain contingent at Paizo that wants to make a subscription for everything, yes. And then there are the people who have to implement all of those subscriptions who say, "Do we need a subscription for that, really?"
Yes.
So,
Rob says yes.
I'll let them know that you want it. But yes, the hero points for the APs sort of spawned out of the response that we got to the Fumbus coin that we did at PaizoCon last year, where people were like, "Oh, we love these. Where can we get more?" And we always knew that we sort of wanted to do commemorative coins for event, like real world events like PaizoCon or Gen Con, or the release of some special product or whatever, anniversaries, things like that. But then we started thinking, well, what more can we do? Like, we've just got PaizoCon and Gen Con really that are our big shows that where we know that we can, justify the expense of and move the stuff so that we're not stuck with a giant bin full of them. The product, what else can we do? Like, do we just do 2 of these a year? And then we thought, well, why don't we do let's do randomized packs. Let's try this.
Ooh.
Let's try, and some of those ideas did not take off. So don't worry. We don't have plans for a blind hero point thing. Although if that's what you guys want, let us know on Paizo.
Like in that with different rarities and the different iconics.
The big reason I would be for that is the same reason that I was all for the randomized D&D mini packs, and it wasn't because I wanted to get random stuff. It was because it was the only way on Earth that they would be able to justify a coin for like some backwater NPC. This is the only way.
Biter.
This is the
it's the Yeah, if you're really waiting around for the Bog Strider hero point coin, then you need to come on and tell us that you want randomized coins.
Mm-hmm.
But Vic and Lisa are notorious collectors, and they're not huge fans of randomization, just because it means that those diehard fans end up having to buy stuff on the secondary market, and it's not the ideal distribution model. And clearly people are willing to fork out $5 for a specific coin that they know what they're going to get. And so there's no reason for us to mess with that. But along these discussions, we did talk about, different series that we could do. Once we realized people wanted to collect them all, we thought, okay, what different sets can we make? Do you want all of the iconics, or do you want one for every country in the inner sea region, or do you want one for all of the 20 deities, or ultimately there are more possibilities than we will probably ever get to. But we know that at most we're ever going to do 3, maybe 4 APs a year if they're all 3 months, which we don't have plans for. That we could probably justify. So we thought these could be a cool, almost like a challenge coin style thing, where you complete the AP, your GM gives you the coin that you can then use in your next campaign as a reminder of all the fun you had playing Age of Ashes or Extinction Curse or whatever.
I remember when we retired one of our players who had to leave Rise of the Rune Lords. This was before these coins. We actually put his character sheet in a shadow box and included one of the hero points in it with them, and that might be a good little wall display for players.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's a lot of cool potential there, and I actually just got my my copies of both of those this last week. One of the downsides of working remotely is that we're not attached to the warehouse. So getting some of the cool stuff that we produce is not as easy as them coming and tossing it on our desks while we're working. So I was really excited to see those, and setting it out along with the Fumbus coin and the generic one from campaign coins. It's pretty clear that this could become a really neat collectible. So we'll keep doing them as long as people keep buying them.
Can you do your impression of yourself when you come across a new rule or idea that is perfect for a new product?
I mean, aren't I always an impression of myself?
But this moment in time.
Seeing something that could make a lot of money, I think, let's see where this goes. I don't know. I don't have a catchphrase.
You need a catchphrase.
I know. Jinkies. Yeah. Think of
Next
the
question from our
platinum
patrons.
pieces we'll make with this. Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Say that again. I stepped on your
Yeah.
catchphrase.
No. I'll come up with something with good alliteration or a made up word. But I don't have it right now.
We'll get back to that then.
Yeah.
Another question from Patreon. Channon Vicada wants to know, actually, they have two questions. Any upcoming WizKids miniature projects to announce or more deep cuts, such as maybe Starfinder Starship deep cuts?
No, it's not my place to announce WizKids products. WizKids does that. So I don't have anything to announce. I know that they have revealed what the next full set is. That's going to be Darklands Rising, which should be out by the end of the year. That is another huge set, so it'll have randomized huges in it, just like Legendary Adventures did. And after that, we don't have anything to announce. Starfinder deep cuts are certainly something that that we would love to see. Starships, because they have yet to produce or release any Starship minis, they're still wary about, because they're not sure how they'll be received. Monster minis or alien minis can be repurposed for other things, but a hex-based starship has much more limited use. So I think that WizKids is being probably reasonably conservative in their implementation of and release schedule for those. But we'll see. I mean, if they do well, they did release deep cuts of their Star Trek attack wing ships.
Oh, did
they? I think I know I've seen them somewhere. Probably not for all of them. I played that for like the first 2 years that it came out, and then I couldn't find other people to play with, and ran out of room for all of my nerd ships. So I had to say goodbye to that one collectible hobby, and I haven't followed it too closely since. But I'm pretty sure they've done that.
You said the latest set that was announced was Darklands Rising. You haven't done a whole lot with the Darklands. What made that theme appropriate for the next set?
Cool monsters from the Darklands.
I mean, all right, there's cool monsters.
Yeah, I mean, WizKids has long really pushed us away from not away from character minis, but more toward awesome monsters, because those have a little bit more universal appeal. If you play a different miniatures based fantasy role-playing game, you can use a dragon. If it's a specific kind of dragon from Galarian, it's easy enough for you to make it a different kind of dragon from whatever world you're playing in. Whereas if you're playing a character, or if you get a miniature with a specific gear loadout, or that's a member of a specific organization or something that you don't have in your world where you play, the one theory is that mini is less universally loved. So we'll see what people say about the Absalom City Guards. We just did a whole series of those in the City of Lost Omens set. But yeah, WizKids loves it when we say we want to do a monster set. We want to do a set that's all monster. They go, bring it on, because then they have even more monsters that they can put into deep cuts sets, and those do really well for them. And I think the fans really like being able to paint their own owlbears and their own dragons. And
I mean, I really love the deep cuts line. I've been super impressed with those ever since they came out, especially since now I can get like so many little Pathfinder goblins. Because having an entire mini set dedicated to goblins didn't sate my need enough.
Hey, did you know that now they're producing a giant goblin?
You mean a life-size 36-inch goblin that I could have for just $450?
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you're not satisfied with 4-inch goblins, do I have news for you? They're not even 4 inches, are they? They're like
Diamond did make the 4-inch goblins, though. So.
Oh yeah.
Oh, that's right. The mini mates.
No, they made like little goblin action figures.
Oh, right. Yes. Okay, those. Yeah, the Bird Cruncher and Lick Code, and yeah.
You asked us to ask you about maps.
Yeah. So, as part of the VTT Strike Force, we've tried to figure out what the optimal way of getting people our content on VTTs is. I think the best way is for it to be preloaded and available for people when they turn on their VTT of choice. Because those marketplaces are run by our partners and not by us, it's not as easy as it is for us just to put stuff up on Paizo.com. So back in June, maybe beginning of July, we released digital versions of our cards, so that you can take those digital assets and move them into your VTT to have your own set of critical hit or critical fumble cards, to have your own chase cards, to have your own whatever. And we plan to do the same thing with maps. We have way more maps to go back and catch up on. We've published over, I think when I did a count earlier in the year, it was well over 100 between flip mats and map tiles, or the map packs and the flip tiles. So there's a lot of SKUs for us to go back and do, but the plan now is for us to start including JPEGs at a high enough resolution that they look good on a VTT, but still within the 10 megabyte limit that at least Roll20, I don't know what other VTTs have as their file limit, but that Roll20 puts up as a size cap, so that people can put those maps in themselves if they own the digital asset from Paizo. So no longer will people need to strip the maps out of the PDF and stuff like that. So that's our first step. We have to figure out what our timeline is on that. But that's the goal. And once we can work out some of the financial transactional issues with the direct marketplaces, the goal is to also then have those on there. Everything that you see on Fantasy Grounds website or Roll20's website or what have you, those are all made by the VTT partner. So until we can better integrate stuff that we make ourselves into their system and still get all the royalties and everything going back and forth the right way, that may take a little delay. But in the meantime, if you've been subscribing to the maps lines and you have the PDFs in your downloads, we're going to start adding the JPEGs to those so that you can start using those in VTTs now.
Awesome. Yeah, I was a little bit, when you started releasing the JPEGs, I was originally a little bit confused because, and Lava Being here is asking in chat about free PDFs with the physical maps, ? If you're subscribed, you already got the PDFs, but it is a bit of a hassle to pull them out, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, PDFs are great for a product that you want to read on a screen. Whether it's a computer or a tablet. They're not great for running a game off of. They have extra layers and extra complexities that make using those assets in a VTT or on a website, like I know people use Discord or other non-VTTs, but networking things to play their games. It's not ideal for those, and we want to make it as easy as possible. So that's what we'll be doing with those, and it's just about figuring out how to add all these assets to over 100 products without breaking the web store team or the customer service team or whatever. So it's in the works. I would say, originally we wanted all this to be out by PaizoCon, but it just, things move slower than we'd like. So
I mean, I'm just already imagining having all of my flip tiles in Roll20 would make my life so much easier.
Mm-hmm. Also, because you can reuse the same one. Like if you want to make a forest maze, you can use the like think Legend of Zelda, where you walk into that exact same screen multiple times. And it's like, okay, I got to go up, left, right, up, down. You can do that in Roll20 or Fantasy Grounds or whatever, because it's just a digital file. You don't have to buy 8 copies of the physical thing, although you can if you want. Yeah, it's so there's advantages to that, and I know that those, that type of tile product is the bulk of what is available on their marketplaces created by other publishers. So we've got the art assets. It's silly for us not to make them available as much as we can. So we're working on it. And you heard it here first, folks. Maybe not. Maybe we've said it elsewhere, but you heard it here.
So besides the JPEGs and stuff, now that we are very much in the world of virtual role playing, what other things has it led to with the Pathfinder and Starfinder brands?
I mean, a large innovation that we did as a company was not so much in the products that we've done, but in organization of our events. Tanya Waldridge, our I don't know what her title is, director of organized play, or I don't know. She runs Pathfinder Society. She put together like just the most amazing Discord server to muster games, to organize games, to help people who are they want to pick up game. That I think we've now deployed multiple times for PaizoCon and Concurrent and Gen Con, and we've got more cons coming up that we'll be doing it for. So I think that's one thing that there's a need for is event organization tools for people running games virtually. That I think we've done a pretty good job with, and Tanya and her team totally deserve all the credit for that. She really used the brain trust of all of the venture officers to come up with something that works really well. In terms of other products, we're not really looking at creating new stuff specifically for VTTs, at least at this point. It's more about how to best adapt the content that we've already got. We publish organized play adventures, we publish adventure paths, and it's not as simple as uploading those PDFs to a VTT and then having it work. It's a lot of work for GMs to go in and adapt those to run their campaigns. It's similarly a lot of work for us to go do that. So it's trying to figure out what the right workflow, what the right business model is for us to get more of that stuff up there for people to use. And we're still working on it, but the low hanging fruit are just the pure digital art assets, and those we can do much sooner. So those will be coming soon.
So going back to Tanya's title, it is the Organized Play Manager.
Manager, okay.
And a question from Lava Being in chat. If there has been any development on making any community use pre-generated characters available on VTTs.
That is something we've discussed. One of the issues with VTTs is that they allow a whole lot of different character sheets. And if you have players using different character sheets because they have different accessibility needs, or they just have different preferences in terms of what macros are built into the character sheet and which aren't, it can be tough to integrate those into a campaign. So until there's an official character sheet, those are harder to do. But it's something that we know people want. So again, it's not as easy as us just putting them up on the VTT marketplace. We have to work with the partners to get those up. So
one last question from our patrons. It's once again from Shannon. Wants an update on the status of Kingmaker collected AP and the Wrath of the Righteous from Owlcat.
Yeah, so the Kingmaker AP, when we planned and figured out what our timeline was going to be and what our different budgeting tiers and things were going to be for it, none of us had any idea that a year after we ran the crowdfunding campaign, we were all going to be working from home, and that the gaming distribution channels would be in a state of chaos, and that people would be scrambling to play online. So we've had to adapt to that situation, and that's meant that resources that we had initially planned to be directed toward Kingmaker had to go other places, or didn't materialize at all, or whatever. So it's in process. James Jacobs is working on it nonstop. I mean, he's putting in 40 plus hours a week on it. He can't move any faster than he's going. So work is still progressing on it. We're not going to ship it to the printer until it's the best book it can be. But yeah, until then, we don't really have an estimate on when it'll actually be out. The closest we've said is second half of 2021. If we shipped it to the printer today, folks probably wouldn't get them until February or March, given how many different pieces there are, and all the different maps and all this stuff. We can't print them all at once, which is why we gave ourselves a year and a half to develop it and release it. So consider that if it were all done today, it would be probably 9 months before folks got it. So we're trying to give ourselves enough room that we don't have to keep kicking the can down the street and say, no, now it's 2022. No, it's 20. We don't want to do that any more than the customers want to see it delayed. We wanted it to be an anniversary edition to come out this year, but it's not in the cards. So I think at this point, we just need to give James the space to make it as awesome as he can. And once he's hands off, then there are other departments, editors and art and everyone who are just waiting to grab it and run with it and do their own magic on it. So
the other half of the question was about Wrath of the Righteous.
Wrath of the Righteous. Yeah. So they just posted this last week on their Kickstarter to Kickstarter backers that their alpha is wrapping up. They got a lot of feedback from that. It was very fruitful in terms of finding bugs and also just fine-tuning how different features are going to work. Things like the moving camera and stuff like that. And so they said that that they're close to being able to release the pre-beta. I don't really know computer game release stuff.
Alpha and a half.
Yeah, I don't.
Pre-beta means all the features aren't there yet.
Okay. Yeah. So they said that a new iteration of the game should be coming soon for those backers who have already had access or who will have beta access. It's moving along. I mean, I've played. Certainly haven't played it as much as I played Kingmaker by this point in the process, but a lot of that too is because I know that what they're going to put out is going to be phenomenal, and so I'm less of a helicopter parent about Pathfinder than I was a few years ago. So
plus that
it looks great.
That project seems to be moving along at a fairly rapid clip. Kingmaker did too.
Yeah, I mean, the so much of the development time for Kingmaker was building the engine. You know, the Pathfinder rules, while very robust, are not necessarily the most streamlined, at least first edition. And so I know that there were a lot of individual, feat interactions or things like that where they had to like go back to the code and figure out, okay, we got to program this all in from the beginning. Well, they've already got that done from Kingmaker. They're able to use the same classes and the same, spell animations and the same, all that stuff for whatever content is being reused. I mean, obviously there's a lot of new content that they're putting in this game. So they had a head start on this. And just like with Kingmaker, where they had done a lot of work even before we had a license, we had approved them making the game, before we had even really nailed down that Wrath of the Righteous was going to be their second game and given them the green light to go ahead and make it. They had already done a whole bunch of work assuming that we would. So yeah, it's I have no reason to believe it's going to be delayed from their early estimates, but I'm also not on the ground doing it. They're also affected by work from home stuff in Moscow. So James Jacobs and I are going to be doing a stream with some of the folks from Owlcat next, is it Tuesday, the 18th, whatever day the 18th is. I should know what That's
Tuesday.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and if for any KD fans who have not watched any programs with the Owlcat people in them, you want to. They are incredibly big, enthusiastic Pathfinder fans that could challenge me on a fact off about Galarian.
Oh yeah, yeah. I would not want to go up against them in trivia. They may have had to hire me to get me to stop winning that thing, but I don't know that they could do the same for some of the folks at Owlcat. So yeah, I'll see what I can find out about Wrath when we're on that stream, and if other folks have questions about that. I mean, the main focus of the stream is going to be showing off the console port of the Kingmaker Definitive Edition that comes out that day, but
and the PC version of it too is coming out that day too, right?
Well, the PC version has been out. It'll be upgraded to the Definitive Edition.
Right.
So if you've already got the
And is that an automatic upgrade? Because I've got the PC. I have the PC version.
If you have, I'm trying to remember what the name of the edition is.
Complete edition, I think.
I don't think it's complete. I want to say enhanced edition, maybe. I don't know. Whatever the complete game is, they'll be upgrading it to have the new features that they're adding, which for PC players is mostly the turn-based mode.
Enhanced edition,
right? So enhanced edition is going to become the definitive edition.
Excellent. I'm really glad when companies do that. I appreciate it when they release the new better edition. Especially that usually happens with a console port. That I've seen companies not do that, and I've had to pay extra money for a game I already own. And I really appreciate it when companies do give me the upgrade, and I'm like, woohoo! I'm gonna play this again.
Yeah, there are some publishers that are better than others, and I won't name names, but there are certain franchises where I have bought the same game 2 or 3 times because they keep doing new editions. And if you're a sucker for Lara Croft, you're a sucker for Lara Croft.
I thought you were going to Fus Rodalis there for a minute.
Yeah, my friend Will's bought like 6 different copies of Skyrim.
I have 3 different PC versions of Skyrim.
And you can tell that Bethesda knows that because they just keep releasing more versions of Skyrim. So I think it's great that that Owlcat and Deep Silver are being pretty generous with this. I mean, ultimately, they're able to port it to consoles because the community has so strongly embraced the game up to this point. And so giving them these extra features it just seems like the natural thanks.
The rogue mode. Oh my gosh. The rogue mode. Why'd they have to do that to my free time?
The Beneath the Stolen Lands.
Yeah, it's DLC? A rogue dungeon. It's an endless, randomly generated dungeon mode, so you can just keep playing it forever.
I know.
Is the enhanced version controller compatible?
They have the beta. They've been running a beta of the definitive edition on Steam for a month or two now. So I believe if you have the enhanced edition, you can already use a controller.
Then
because
I will be going back to
Peyton Smith. Yeah, Peyton Smith, our digital manager. I don't know anyone's titles. He runs our streams and things. He has been playing through using a controller on our Twitch channel and has been using. He was originally using the turn-based mod and then switched over to do the turn-based like built-in integration.
Yeah.
So
turn-based is a game changer for that game. It's so much
fun. I mean, literally.
Yeah. Sorry.
The game plays very differently in real time with pause than it does in turn-based. Yeah. And for me, I just don't have the time as much as I used to do the turn-by-turn combat. It runs a lot faster with real time with pause because I can just turn it to story mode where I don't have to worry about anyone dying and then just say, go kill that thing. And they do. And that way, we have, I have time to actually play other games. So
we've been talking for an hour and a half. Is there anything that you still wanted to cover?
I mean, we haven't really talked about any of our any of our books, have we? We've just talked about stuff other people are making.
So what are you making?
And our digital stuff.
What books?
We're still doing adventure paths. We're still doing modules. We've got. I'm really excited about the Pathfinder Society Lost Omens book that comes out next month. I just assigned the web fiction that's going to tie in with that, and there's some cool stuff in that book. I finally got a chance to look through it, and man, I thought that we couldn't do any better than Legends, but we'll see. Luis and Eleanor keep raising the bar.
Yeah,
so
super impressed with.
Luckily, they're raising it for themselves and not for me. I can still coast by at my current level of productivity and creativity. As long as they keep improving, then we're okay.
Elftara seems
another book that's. Oh, go ahead, Per.
So Elftara seems to agree with you. Legends is awesome. All caps. More of this, please.
Yeah, it was a big experiment for us to see. We heard time and time again that people didn't want fiction in their game books. That's why we cut the Pathfinder's Journal from the APs. Was that we heard from the very beginning, get this out of here and give us game content. But this book is mostly flavor. I mean, there's rules elements in it, but it's by far the most flavor heavy rule book we've ever done, and the reception to it is really encouraging, as the guy who wants to get more fiction out there. But we've it also showed me a bunch of authors who like Hillary Moon Murphy, who you mentioned before, has primarily just done game content. This sort of straddled that line to let those people who have talent at telling stories through narrative to do that and catch my attention.
Yeah. So a lot of what I've been hearing is people saying Legends is awesome, but I also know a lot of the authors on that book, and so most of my Facebook feed is just people kind of promoting it to make sure it gets in the hands of gamers, readers. What's like, do you have any insight into like, is it penetrating? Is it getting into people's hands?
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly doing as well as our other Lost Omens books. we're continually amazed at how well that line is doing. I think that the fact that it's sort of a combination of the player companion and the Pathfinder campaign setting from first edition into one line, I think makes it more universally useful, and they're really good books. I'm incredibly proud of those, and fans seem to recognize it. So I think that it's done really well. We're really happy with all of our Gen Con releases. Despite not having a physical Gen Con, we may not have sold a giant stack of APGs, but yeah, they're getting out there, and pretty much all we're hearing from both reviewers and fans is that they're really good. Yeah. So
I mean, it was a fantastic lineup. We reviewed both of the books. We broke down both of the books on the channel because we can't review them anymore, and we loved them. This was definitely one of our favorite months of releases. And honestly, to back you up with what you said about the Lost Omens line, in first edition, the books I often looked forward to most was the player companion line. It was always so flavorful and very unique takes on things, and then the presentations and just taking the risks and changing things up with the Lost Omens line has means that while I very much love the APG and the core rulebook line, the ones I'm waiting for and looking forward to most are more often than not Lost Omens books.
Well, we've announced the Ancestry guide that's coming out in, I think, February, maybe. Comes out just after the first of the year, and that's another one that I think is going to be a big hit. After that, we haven't announced what the next one is, but we will be within the next few weeks. I think that we decided this year with Gen Con, traditionally in years past we've used Gen Con to basically announce everything through the next Gen Con. And what that means is that some announcements sort of get lost in the shuffle. Even when Eric did his hour-long presentation of what was coming, most of the questions afterward were about Secrets of Magic. Everyone wants to know about the Magus. They want to know about the Summoner. They want to know, is it going to be closer to the original Summoner or the Unchained Summoner? Or is it going to, is Celtiel still going to be the iconic?
I posit,
and so what?
I posit Celtiel never was the iconic Magus. It was just Celtiel's abs.
Wait, Celtiel's abs is redundant. There is no other. It's like saying Elaine's ego. They are one and the same. So I think that we were wise to hold back some of our announcements. We've still got next summer's AP to announce. We've got the next few Lost Omens books to announce. But we also have more convention. I mean, one of the benefits of digital only cons is that we can sort of have a presence at more of them because we don't have to travel anywhere. It doesn't cost us anymore. We don't have to put anybody up in a hotel and fly them, on overpriced airlines to the shows. We can just say, hey, do you have room for us to do a seminar or make an announcement? And so we will be doing that. Look for those in September about those. Can I give any hints about them?
That's dangerous.
Yeah. Well, I can
Eric,
tell you.
The reason I'm in this interview at all is because Eric is on vacation this week. So I firmly believe that my boss, the person who would come down on me if I were to spill anything I wasn't supposed to spill, is enjoying himself and not watching the stream, and won't listen to the podcast until after we've made the announcements, so I can probably say something. I just have to figure out how to say it in a way that if I'm wrong won't get me fired.
I very much don't want you to get fired, Mark. While you think,
neither do I.
Daigle is suggesting you not do it in the chat.
Eric Mona has joined the chat.
No. He hasn't. It's just someone using his screen name. I will say this: the next AP that we have coming out for Pathfinder, that we will be officially announcing within the next month, has both a number in the title and an ability score.
What? So like the strong, I guess strength 2 could be the name of the AP. Like that would meet the criteria of the hint.
Oh gosh, this is the licensed 2 perception AP?
All right. Yeah. So Elf Taroth is suggesting wisdom. Wisdom's probably the one that's most likely. Like it wouldn't be dexterity or con. Oh, Elf Taroth says the 4 wisdoms of war. That is a great title.
Now a hint that Eric.
Luckily, there's only 6 ability scores for you to narrow it down with,
and infinite numbers.
There are a lot of numbers. So,
is it a whole number?
What if I said it's multiple whole numbers?
It's 18/00 strength.
Maybe I don't understand what a whole number is then. Multiple whole numbers. If
it is multiple whole numbers, if it is
it's okay.
2 wisdom, 2 furious.
I'm not gonna say more than that. I'll let folks speculate.
7 faces of charisma, as Darren Kaldemeyer's guess.
I will neither confirm nor deny any of the guesses because, as you say, Eric Mona has joined the chat. If he's really there, he can tell you in the remainder of the show whether you are getting warm or cold.
Mm-hmm.
So now that I have thrown fuel on that fire, I have nothing further that I would like to talk about.
Excellent.
Param, I think our private sanctum after the show is just going to be us throwing a combination of numbers and ability scores that we can think of that actually would make some kind of reasonable title.
But if we're going to throw in ominous hints, Eric Mona recently threw in an ominous hint that...
It's not an ominous hint.
Okay.
It's a helpful hint.
Helpful hints.
You guys could use the information I just gave you to guess the title and beat us to the announcement. You could do it.
All right.
You know I want to do that.
The gauntlet has been laid down.
We're going to throw out 500 simultaneous tweets.
Is 500 the number?
Develop a program, Param, that just
maybe it is.
I mean, I can. Absolutely. Absolutely,
right.
I can. But one of the other hints that were recently done was from Eric Mona was that Bestiary 3 was they're going to change up what bestiaries are going to be like after Bestiary 3. Basically, there was no current plans for a Bestiary 4, and that monsters going forward will be presented in a new format. And I don't know what all that means, but that's cryptic and speculaty.
I mean, I can speak a little bit to that.
Wonderful.
I'll say for one that we're not actively working on the next monster book after Bestiary 3. The design team is still working on getting Bestiary 3 done so that when the playtest for Secrets of Magic starts up, they have their plates cleared to start working on that book. After Bestiary 3, we do not plan to make a Bestiary 4, but we do plan to continue doing adversary books in the same way that for first edition we did Monster Codex and we did the NPC Codex and we did the Villain Codex, that were like, here's ways of presenting stats of things for you to stab in not just a bestiary or that aren't monsters per se, but are NPCs. And I think that toward the end of first edition, you saw with like the planar handbook, the idea that we could do a book that is really focused thematically, that includes player options and GM options and monsters and whatever. And so it would have been like maybe if Occult Adventures, for example, had included an occult bestiary instead of that being its own book in the Pathfinder campaign setting line. So we could do a book all about necromancy that might have like a special, undead ancestry and a hardcore like grave waker class and a whole bunch of undead. I don't know, I just made that up, don't hold me to it. But if we end up doing that, you heard it here first.
Wisdom of the 7 grave wakers.
Yeah, I thought you were going to say 7 grave wafers, and it made me hungry. So that's telling me it's dinner time. So we could do something like that, and I think that one of our goals with second edition is to make every book the best book it can be, even if it's completely different than all our other books. And with first edition, we definitely got into rut is probably too strong of a word, but we got into a pretty strong routine, and our books became very formulaic, which is both good for the customer because they know what to expect in terms of, oh, this book will likely have a new class or 2 and a bunch of new character options and alternate rule systems and then a bunch of magic items. But creatively, it's sure, it means that we can crank out an outline and produce one of those books with a lot less work because we don't have to reinvent the wheel every time. But I think we could probably make stronger books by making each book what it needs to be. And that means that if we were to do a cult book for second edition, that it could take on a very different form than what Secrets of Magic is as a book. And that includes that it could have a large section of occult monsters. Or we could do something that's still primarily a monster book, but is much more focused in theme so that it's, this is all about, fae that are larger. And I'm not saying it's a good idea, but maybe, so that type of granularity with the books is sort of what we're planning on doing with the bestiaries, is to not just get into the routine of doing, okay, it's another 320 page book that it contains 300 monsters and it's got 6 different subgroups of outsiders and we're done.
And you gotta have one type of dragon in there.
Maybe not. Maybe we do a whole book that's all about dragons, and it's got both a bunch of kinds of true dragons and non-true dragons, as well as details of a whole bunch of dragon cults and dragon-based character options and a Dracomancer class, and who knows, it opens up a lot more possibility for us to not be restricted by the format that came before. So if it's right for us to do a monster book that includes a class, if it's not Bestiary 4, then we can do that. Whereas if it's Bestiary 4, it gets weird to figure out how we justify putting a class in Bestiary 4 when there wasn't one in Bestiary 1 through 3.
So one of the talking points at Gen Con that kind of just I found strange was how Secrets of Magic isn't just ultimate magic for second edition, and I was kind of like, but isn't it like a magic option splat book? So like, can you expand on that? Like, what is Secrets of Magic other than just second edition Ultimate Magic? Conceptually, because I know you can't spoil content.
Yeah, well, I will talk about my current involvement in the book, which I no longer really work in the word mines, but I recently had a query from a freelancer working on that book who asked me what it feels like for a prepared spellcaster to have a prepared spell prepared, and then what it feels like to cast it and no longer have it prepared.
Interesting.
And I thought, oh, well, I always sort of assumed it's like, cramming for a test. Like, first you have to basically like understand the principles of chemistry before you can cram before the test to remember what Planck's constant is. And so a wizard is going to prepare their spells by being like, okay, I know fundamentally how this works, but for me to make this work, I need to enter the right constants into the formula. And now I remember what those are because I read it this morning, and there's your spell. And now, wow, that was exhausting. What was Planck's constant again? And so that was sort of my response to that. And James Jacobs, who was also on this thread, was like, no, it operates this other way. So that's the kind of conversation that we're having in creating this book, which, to the best of my knowledge, we didn't have when making Ultimate Magic.
See, I just assumed it was like walking into a room and you have no idea what you're doing there.
I knew I was going to explode this place, but how?
Yeah. Something about magic. Were there missiles?
No, I mean that maybe that's what it's like for an oracle who's not quite sure what the how their magic is going to manifest at any given time. Maybe that's how it is for the witch, who is at the whim of what her patron or her familiar are willing to share with her that day. But for a wizard, a wizard is never late and is never early. A wizard arrives exactly when he intends to. The wizard may walk into a room. They may not have prepared to explode the room, but they know 12 different ways to do so. And if they are given a moment to consult their book, they will be able to do so. Mm-hmm. We're really going to explore a lot of what magic feels like, what magic is, other than just here are a bunch of stats for how you cast a bunch of spells. But what is it that people in Golarion think about magic? How do they interact with magic?
Whenever I'm GMing and somebody channels positive energy, I'll often say something like, you're at full hit points, but you probably want to get in on that channel because it just feels great.
Yeah. I've done stuff where, like if you worship Caden Kalian and you channel energy, or all of your healing spells, they smell like different kinds of alcohol.
Nice.
So oh, he's casting the whiskey spell now. Like, okay, all right. I remember that one usually makes me braver. Or, oh, now it's the fruity one. This is wine. Mm-hmm. The wine smelling spell is going to make me more charismatic, or, whatever, like all the, just giving that level of flavor to how the spells manifest is something I've always sort of done. And I think that without necessarily making the whole thing about what your fireball smells like, other than burning,
yeah, it smells like bat guano. That's been expressed several times.
Yeah. But you only need a little bit of bat guano for a very big explosion.
Have you ever set bat guano on fire, Mark? You don't need much.
I can't say that I have. But along the same line of conversation is like, well, does that mean that a spellcaster, a wizard who is super astute who lives on an island where there's no bats, but there's a lot of seagulls, can't figure out a way to, without fundamentally changing Fireball, cast that spell using seagull guano. Like, it's
Not
exploring that.
No, it's a fish freshly stolen from a plate.
What?
I don't know. I mean, is it still Fireball if you cast it that way, even if it still does the same amount of damage?
Okay, so I'm actually about 50% more interested in this book now.
Yeah. So like a question I'll often get asked is like, can a wizard tell if a mind affecting spell has failed? It's like, do they just not have the connection, or is it just the hope that when they give the instructions, the person's going to get it? It feels like that's the kind of question that this book is going to answer. Or will it, because they're secrets?
I don't know that it's necessarily going to answer all those questions, because there are
too many.
There are as many of those. That's like saying, you're like, okay, I'm going to answer my toddler's last question. Like, no, it's never the last question. There's always another question. But I think this will explore that type of view of magic. Of instead of just looking at it mechanically, we're really going to look at it flavorfully to inspire players and GMs to ask those sorts of questions, or to, derail their game so that instead of spending 3 hours in combat, they're spending 3 hours talking about the nature of magic, and whether in character or not, are talking about whether a fireball that is cast with seagull guano is still technically a fireball if it has the same exact mechanical effects.
Water Sleuth suggested it has sonic damage. Is there sonic damage in 2E?
You're asking the wrong guy. I do brand level stuff. I don't dig around in the rules anymore.
I could find out when I grab.
Okay, while you're doing that,
this package of spell cards.
Oh yeah.
So why isn't this a Lost Omens book? Why is this an RPG line book?
Because we have another Lost Omens book that's going into this similar slot that we'll be talking about later.
Wait, similar calendar slot or
yeah.
slot? Okay.
Yeah, no, we're working on another book in that line. We can't do 2 Lost Omen books simultaneously, Ryan.
Well, I'm just saying that, like, when you're divvying up what's Lost Omens, what's RPG, if this one sounds so much more flavorful, how come it's not Lost
because
Omens?
I think, and again, I'm not actively working on the book, but this one is, while it'll be more flavorful, isn't necessarily more anchored in the setting.
Okay.
These levels of metaphysical discussions of what the nature of magic is, while those certainly take place in places like the Megambia or the Academy or the Arcanumirium in Galarian, they don't have to. They're not intrinsically tied to those locations. So if we were to do a Lost Omens book that were similar in nature, it would probably be like Lost Omens Magic Academies, and it would be all about the Megambia, or all about the College of Wonders in Corvosa or whatever. So it's just a different way of presenting similar stuff.
So I just want to let people know that are listening to this as a podcast, the things you're missing visually right now are, it seems like there's smoke coming out of your background, Mark.
Oh no, that's my green screen. It's because
it really does look like your background has caught fire. And it's even thematically appropriate to the Hal Podbay doors. But they also missed Param triumphantly pull up a fork because he's trying to take the plastic off the spell cards, and he's like, I've got it.
No, it's not working.
Okay. Isn't there a tab that you're supposed to pull and it guides you open?
No, not on these. They're incredibly shrink wrapped.
It wasn't me.
All right. Mark, the strength of 12 nations.
That's an interesting
That sounds like a cool adventure.
Yeah.
I don't know what nations. We have 40 nations, Ryan.
Well, the strength of 40 nations then. Oh, there we go.
I have an answer. This is the Soundburst spell, and it has the tags Evocation and Sonic. And it says that it does 2d10 Sonic damage. So there is indeed still Sonic in 2nd edition.
Nice. So when the Yurthak finally gets brought over to 2nd edition, it's going to still have its Sonic breath weapon.
Yeah, but it'll be in a book that's all about dinosaur monsters.
I'm okay with that.
I'm totally on board. Yeah. That's where the fort can be.
Dinosaur fort, finally.
That's the name of the book, actually.
Oh!
Yes.
Yeah. Lost Omens Dinosaur Fort, right there. You heard it here first.
I kind of hope this is never like that. This just continues to build momentum of what Dinosaur Fort could be, because at this point now it's its own source book.
You know, fort is a saving throw. It's not a ability score.
Right. It would have to be the strength of 10 dinosaur forts.
That would be pretty strong.
Would it ever?
Yeah.
Param, while you had those cards open, did you want to talk about the cards?
Oh, yeah. So
we'll give them a proper review next episode because it's nearing 11 o'clock. And Mark, I haven't checked in on you. You're still okay hanging out for a little bit? You were mentioning being hungry.
Yeah, I have Nutter Butters here, so I can eat a Nutter Butter.
Okay, just don't do not on weird Twitch rules or
we're allowed to. That's not a Twitch thing. It's just a Param thing.
Okay. Well, it's also isn't that the first rule of radio? Never eat on the air.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's the sound of eating. If it's not,
it's an ASMR.
Yeah. There's people that are there for that, but if you're not there for that, it's one of the fastest ways to chase an audience away.
Well, luckily we're at the end of the interview.
Yes, indeed. Oh no! No, but I got all the spell cards. They sent us review copies of these, and I have lots of thoughts about these. Overall, I'm really positive on them. I really appreciate how thorough they are, and the whole dividing them up the way they did with the magic is going to make this super easy. Also, they did a great job with the box. As you can see, it has the extra room needed to put sleeves in, and they planned ahead.
That was a bestiary card box problem.
Yeah, and they planned ahead for additional cards to be added to the box.
And I know you were talking about you like that they gave you room to put the cards in sleeves.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Mark, are we getting like branded sleeves anytime soon?
Don't we already have those?
We have them for the adventure card game. It says adventure card game. You can't put your role-playing game cards in adventure card game sleeves like some kind of amateur.
I put mine in Mega Man sleeves.
If only we had a partnership with someone who made card sleeves.
And if only indeed.
I know.
I just want to throw things out and get that same like coy, like, well, we can't talk about this.
That sure would be neat.
Yeah.
No, the one I really want, thing I really want, this is not me begging Mark to make it happen. But what I really want, after seeing that awesome...
I think you overestimate your...
Oh, yeah. I was just trying to be polite about it, Mark. This isn't me going, make this happen, Mark. Make it happen. Because stupid reasons. But I was really impressed with the Upper Deck big giant card box they made for the adventure card game. And now that there's so many freaking cards that I got to keep track of for 2nd edition, especially since some of them are a little bit beyond standard. The bestiary wonderful.
The bestiary ones, yeah.
It would be one of the things that would be wonderful if somebody made, or I guess I can make myself, would be a dedicated card box that accounted for all the cool cards.
Yeah, I mean, I know that I personally used large index card drawers to organize all of my map packs because they were 5x8. So, yeah, so I have like a whole stack of them at my desk at the office. I think I gave them to the
smarter than what I did.
Yeah. So in any case, I definitely am all for that. And I know just the people to talk to about doing so. But if such a product comes out, will you know that you suggested it or that it was already in the works?
Ooh, I assume you're much smarter than my random conjectures, Mark.
Well, you're overestimating a lot of things today. Yeah. So, I really, it depends if those sell really well and we hear nothing but positive feedback from players and GMs on those, then the chances of us supporting them with more sleeves and books and boxes, and maybe we'll make a card sleeve apron and you can just wear it.
I cast.
Yeah, they have shower curtains that you can put baseball cards and Magic cards and things. And I don't know why you would. Maybe basic lands.
That would be the worst thing ever.
No, you put them on the other side, on the outside.
The moisture in the atmosphere will. Yeah. I mean,
they would like.
I don't know.
They would turn into like a mortar and stick inside. You never get those cards out.
Oh,
why do you want to? You need them to hide your nakedness from other people in the bathroom.
Who's in my bathroom if I don't want them to see me naked?
Then why do you even bother with the shower curtain to begin with?
Life-size Mariseal's in there.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. You don't know. You're the one who said you want to buy one of those little goblins. You think you're going to be able to keep them out of your bathroom?
That's
Dwapuk is suggesting card sleeve character sheet, and I'm not sure what that means.
Yeah, I'm really not sure what that means.
Really little character sheet.
Really big. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I mean, if we can make a life-size goblin, we can literally make anything. So who knows?
Do you have Shoot the Moon, like the product that you pitch every time and everyone's like, I got away with that, Mark?
Yes.
Which you can't say because someday this thing's going to get made.
Yeah, very soon.
Very soon. Ooh.
Like, I believe a prototype is on its way to Washington right now. So
really? Okay. This is actually
fantastic. So please let us know when you can.
What it is.
Yeah.
But there are still things that are coming out for Pathfinder and Starfinder that excite those of us who still work on Pathfinder and Starfinder.
Yeah, very cool.
And we will continue to report about
like 11 o'clock. We should be wrapping things up. We're going to have to skip the news segment again. But really, if you watched the Gen Con coverage, you got the news segment.
Some news that might be important is the Path Builder is loaded up with all the cool stuff now.
Yes.
That's so great.
Yeah. I started playing around with it yesterday.
Yeah.
We had a power failure, so I made 2E characters because I had Path Builder on my phone.
So, Mark, for all those people now fascinated by your Shoot the Moon dreams and giant goblins that you manifest into reality, where can they follow your work and your personal promotional ambitions?
Well, most of my work these days is not on a byline, but I do have a pretty heavy hand in the web fiction on Paizo.com. So check the Paizo blog. They are often under the Iconic Encounters, Tales from the Drift, Tales of Lost Omens, or the Windsong Testaments headlines. So check those out. And personally, you can find me on Twitter at Yoda 8 my head, which was my old Paizo.com
oh my gosh
username before they made me change it to my real nerd name. My non-nerdy Yoda 8 my head name was cool, but now I have to go by Mark Moreland everywhere.
I miss the days that we used to quote you as Yoda 8 my head before you started working there.
Yeah. I miss being able to call up customer service and say, "Hi, it's Yoda," and they'd be like, "Hello, what can I help you with?" Although I bet if I did that, Sarah Marie would still know who it was. So yeah, that's where you can find me. I'm on Twitter. I do mostly retweeting, but I also reach out to the Pathfinder and Starfinder communities on there with polls and stuff about what you're looking for, what you think about existing products and stuff. So it's a great way to engage with that. That's it.
Fantastic.
Wisdom of 5 Kings.
And if you want to follow our work,
There are 5 Kings Mountains, aren't there?
Right? Dwarves are good at wisdom.
Mm-hmm. But they can't be dwarves. Paizo hates dwarves. Didn't you hear?
They're finally doing the dwarf adventure pack.
All new edition, Param.
Oh.
Everything's on the table.
Yeah, you shortened kobold snouts. You made goblins PCs. Now, if you want to follow our work, or you want to take more awesome guesses at what in the world the next AP's name is before they announce it, you can do so over at NoDirectionPodcast.com, where you can also click on that little purple Discord link on the side of the page, where you'll be able to join the chillest Pathfinder and Starfinder community there is on the internet, where you get to chat with all of our fans, as well as most of the members of No Direction. We pretty much hang out there nonstop, and we do make sure that it is a fantastic community to hang out with, and you will enjoy yourselves. You can, looking at that Discord link, again, we can remind you that there's a little Patreon link right underneath it if you want to help support the channel grow, or maybe you want to hang out with us after a show in our private sanctum. You can do so by becoming a patron at patreon.com/NoDirection. And if you want to follow our work in the social spaces, you can do so at facebook.com/NoDirection, twitter.com/NoDirection, and youtube.com/NoDirection show. And of course, join us here in 2 weeks, or even next week will be a different show, but join us here every Wednesday at 9 o'clock Eastern Time at twitch.tv/NoDirection.
Mark, thank you for joining us. This was a lot of fun, and I actually thought that last half hour or so where we kind of got off topic and we're just shooting stuff at you, that was really fun. There was good energy to that. So
Yeah,
thank you for sticking around the
Yeah,
extra time.
no, the longer I stay on one of these things, the loopier I get.
Shh, don't tell them that's what we do.
Fine. It's fine.
And I heard you saying that we ghosted you when you were talking on at the Gen Con thing. We did not ghost you. You are welcome back. We will make an effort to make sure that we go out of our... the reason we asked Eric on this episode instead of you was we had an episode planned for you to come on and talk Owlcat stuff in a couple of weeks or a month or so. So maybe you'll be back within a couple of weeks, and we'll make it a reoccurring segment of just
maybe
bring Mark on to talk about stuff.
If he still wants to, Ryan. We're assuming too much.
Yeah, I don't know. You guys got too many secrets out of me this time. And you kept me from my dinner.
All right, everyone.
Dexterity for all, but the number is 4.
All right, everyone. Right after this, we are going to go over to our Discord channel to hang out. And if you want to hang out with us in the private sanctum, any of our patrons and
the spider's back.
For real? I know somebody in chat said, "Is that the spider on your shoulder?" Is that what you were just reacting to? Was the spider actually on your shoulder?
Yeah. No. Yes. The spider was right there. At about the same time he said the spider was on my shoulder.
Okay. Well, and it was like you even made an arm motion towards your shoulder. I was like, oh, wait a second.
I thought I was being like flanked. All right.
Spiders do have pretty good stealth score. You might be.
The dexterity of 2 spiders.
All right, everyone, we are, and I can't hear anything that they're saying right now because I yanked my headphone plug off, but we are about to head on over to our Discord to hang out in the private sanctum. We appreciate any of y'all that's watching us live and are one of our patrons that want to join us to go on and head on over there with us. We are definitely have had a fun time tonight.
Until next time, I'm Ryan Costello. He's Jefferson J. Thacker, also known as Param. And if you want to find the path, you need no direction.